All right, let's take a look at Spanish verbs, specifically regular verbs. These are going to be the bedrock foundation for verbs as we'll use them through the remainder of Spanish. So, super important section. It's very important that you know this information backwards and forwards. So don't think that this is something you can gloss over and it'll just go away. This will be something that comes up forever in Spanish. So just keep that in mind. All right, so as in English, verbs have different forms. In English, we say, I run. She runs, with an S. We run, without an S. Where did the S go? So why is run used with the subject I and runs, with an S, used with she? The answer? We just have different forms. Below, you will find the Spanish subject pronouns I, you, he, she, we, they, and you guys, along with the different endings that verbs receive depending on who the subject is. In Spanish, there are three possible kinds of verbs. There are verbs that end in AR, ER, and IR. These have similar but different endings, and it's important to note that these are all regular verbs. So later we will see verbs that are irregular or that don't follow these rules. But for now, let's take a look at the regulars. Okay? Before we jump into the verbs and their endings, let's look at subject pronouns. And this is important because the pronoun tells us which verb ending to use, right? So this is super important to verb endings. So yo means I. Tú means you, informal. Él means he. Ella means she. Usted means you, formal. And although it's not in the list, if we were to put it here, the word it, right? It is possible to have it be a subject of a sentence, right? It goes fast, right? So it is the subject for the verb goes. It goes fast. In Spanish, we don't have a subject pronoun that is it, but it's going to be related or very similar to or tied to él, ella, and usted. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Keep that as an ace up your sleeve. Just know that the word it as a subject is related to él, ella, and usted. Okay, nosotros. Nosotros means we. Okay, ellos means they when referring to either an all-male or a mixed group of people. Ellas means they when the group is all female. And ustedes means you guys or you all. Okay? All right, so once you have those mastered, we're going to move on. Right now, we're just going to keep this all in our short-term memory, but you do need to get these on flashcards and memorize them. So, okay, so here we go. Regular AR verbs. So if I look in the dictionary and I see a verb that ends in AR, this is how I will use that AR verb. Okay? So if I want to say that I do whatever that AR verb is or happens to be, I'm going to remove the AR and I'm going to replace the AR at the end of that verb with an O. By doing that, by removing the AR and putting an O in its place, then I am saying that I do whatever that verb happens to be. Similarly, if I want to say that you, tú, informal, are doing that verb, I will remove the AR and replace the AR with AS. Okay? If I want to say that he, she, or you, or even that it, right, happens to be doing that thing, I will remove the AR, put an A. Nosotros, we, gets an amos at the ending. Remove the AR, put the amos. If I want to say they or you guys or you all are doing that action, remove the AR at the end, replace it with AN. Okay? The endings for ER verbs, O, es, e, hemos, en. Okay? Again, I am doing it, you are doing it, he, she, you, formal, or even it happens to be doing that action, right? Again, I look up the verb, I see it's ER. These are the replacements, okay? IR endings are almost exactly the same as ERs, the only difference being in the nosotros form. It gets an IMOS or IMOS as opposed to the hemos, okay? Super important. Let's take a look. These are our first verbs. So, hablar. Hablar is an AR verb. I know that because I looked it up and it has an AR at the end of it. It happens to mean to speak or to talk. If I want to say that I do it, I'm going to remove the AR, replace it with an O. Yo hablo. Yo hablo. If I want to say you do it, tú, removing that AR, replacing it with AS. Tú hablas. He, she, you, or it, right? Él, ella, usted, habla, right? We do it, hablamos. They or you guys, hablan. Okay? All right, yo como, right? Oh, so comer. Comer is an ER verb, right? I look it up. I see that there's an ER there. I know that the ER endings, right, apply to this particular verb. So I'm going to replace that ER ending with O for yo. So yo como, I eat. Tú comes, you eat. Él, ella, usted, or even it, come, okay, eats. Nosotros comemos, hemos, E-M-O-S, hemos. We eat. Ellos, ellas, ustedes comen, right? They or you guys eat. An example of an IR verb is vivir. IR verb, yo vivo, tú vives, so I live, you live. Él vive, he lives. Ella vive, she lives. Nosotros vivimos, we live. Okay, ellos, ellas, ustedes, so they or you guys viven, live. Okay? Okay, so that is how to apply the verb endings to verbs. So there we go. The subject pronouns, yo, tú, etc., are not always needed with verbs. Let me repeat that, it's super important. The subject pronouns, that's yo, tú, él, ella, usted, etc., are not always needed with verbs. Use the pronouns for emphasis or clarification. For example, habla alone could mean he, she, or you speak. Habla. If I just say habla by itself, right? Here we go. There it is, habla. That could mean any one of these people is the subject. It could mean he speaks, she speaks, you speak, even it speaks, right? So to clarify what habla is referring to, we use the pronoun él, ella, or usted, okay? But if I just say hablo, there's no question. The only ending, the only person that ending correlates with is yo. Because the O ending is unique to yo only, and none of the other forms, if I just say hablo by itself, the person I'm speaking to is going to know who the subject is because of that verb ending, right? So again, if I just say habla, well, that's confusing because it can be él, ella, or usted. If I say hablamos, I don't have to use nosotros. It will be understood 100% who is being referred to because of that ending. That ending is unique to nosotros only. So I don't need it. However, for clarification or emphasis, I could choose to say nosotros. So we speak a lot, maybe in comparison to someone else. For example, when comparing people, it's common to use the pronoun for emphasis or clarification. Okay? So keep that in mind. Again, O, there's only one option. As, only one option. If there's only one option, I don't need the pronoun as much, unless I want to emphasize or clarify. If I say habla, then I kind of need the pronoun a little bit more because it could be confusing to the person I'm speaking with. Now, if we've been speaking about the same person for the last 5 or 10 minutes, and that subject is well established, I could get away with saying habla without having to use a pronoun. But if I'm starting a new sentence, I'm changing the subject. It's a different person that we're talking about now. I might want to include the pronoun. Okay? It's also good to include names. It's worth saying here, we could include a name. So I could say, if I want to say Carlos speaks, I could say Carlos habla, right? So I'm introducing Carlos as a new topic or a theme. Carlos talks a lot. My goodness, did you hear him in class? Carlos habla mucho, right? And as we know, pronouns, they are meant to take the place of a noun, a proper noun, right? So instead of saying Carlos again and again after sentence after sentence, then we're going to start using our pronoun él. Él habla mucho, right? But we can get to a point where we've been talking about him for so long, we don't even need to use él anymore, right? We could just use the verb habla. Okay? So if your subject is well established and you don't need a pronoun for clarity, then you can just use the verb with its proper ending. Anyway, so keep that in mind. Here's some more examples. You can check those out in your book. They just follow the same pattern that we just looked at. So keep that in mind. I would look at these closely. They've got some good examples, great sentences to consider. So that's those. And we have a list of verbs that we need to know. So in addition to the information that we just saw, those endings, you need to study and know these regular AR verbs, ER verbs, and IR verbs. You need to be able to apply those endings to all of these. Okay? So bailar, I should know how to say I do it, he does it, they do it, we do it, right? All of those different endings. So yo bailo, tú bailas, right? How could I make a complete sentence out of this real quick? Yo bailo bien. I dance well. Yo bailo bien. If I don't, I could say yo no bailo bien. If you want to make a statement negative, just put the no right in front of the verb. No bailo bien. Okay? I don't dance well. Anyway, so we should know these. Take some time. Get the flashcards going. Study these verbs. On your flashcard, you might have the verb written, and then on the other side, you might have the verb with all of its forms written. Okay? So this should take some time. There are like 50 verbs. There's a lot here. These are all regular. They follow that pattern that we just looked at. So anyway, keep that in mind. There is some homework to do in conjunction with the verbs. I believe that you will be writing all of the forms for all of the verbs. It will be probably a big assignment. So anyway, in addition to that, you've got some of these others. But they're straightforward. If you follow the explanation that you just heard, you should do fine on these. Email with any questions, and that's it on Spanish verbs.